And we are rolling on October 26th at UCLA, where we are having debates on this question of whether we lock up too many people or not in our prisons in these United States. Taking the negative is Haley, and she's about to present her prison brief in the next 7 minutes.
All right, so today the topic is the United States locks up too many people, and I'm on the negative stance, so obviously I disagree with this. I do not think the United States locks up too many people. So first, with the resolutional analysis, the criteria today will be the preponderance of evidence and the quality of that evidence. I'm going to skip most of the definitions, but overall, too many is probably the most important aspect here. In this debate, too many will be measured as the disadvantages of incarceration outweighing the benefits. So as the negative, if I prove that maintaining the current incarceration rate will be more beneficial, then I will win this debate.
Good.
Alright, so what is the current problem going on today in the status quo? So currently a lot of people believe that there are too many people incarcerated in the United States, and of course there are a lot of statistics on how many people are incarcerated, that the United States incarcerates more people than other countries. And this all came about from this tough on crime motto from the 60s and 70s that successfully dramatically decreased crime in the 80s and 90s, but has become problematic today. So the real issue of incarceration, the main points that I'm going to be arguing today, is not the rate of incarceration, not the amount of people that are going through the prison system, but the lengths of the sentences and the lack of programs for those people. So as the negative, I believe that the same amount of people, if you commit a crime, you should go to prison. However, they should not be in prison for as long, and while they're in prison, they should have access to programs so that they can reintegrate back into society and not return. So first, the major problem with the current justice system is mandatory minimum sentences. So according to the ACLU, today, almost everyone convicted of drug crimes, which are nonviolent crimes, result in 5 to 10 year sentences, which seems a little absurd. Furthermore, according to a study conducted by the National Research Council, recidivism rates decline with age. So people that are in these prisons for 10, 20, 30 years, they're more likely to not return and commit crimes if they're released, so they should not be taking up that space in prisons. So this means, people who commit crimes should definitely still go to prison because they committed a crime. However, we think nonviolent offenders should not be incarcerated for as long. So second, another problem with the current justice system is that these people are not given access to programs. So even though prison sentences have been proven to be actually very effective, what occurs during prison is almost as important as when they get out. So a 5-year study in the state of Indiana found that released offenders, if they did not have access to educational programs while they were in prison, had a very difficult time finding employment and became recidivist offenders. So they returned to prison. So again, therefore, we should keep the same rate of incarceration because we believe that the people who are committing crimes do need to experience it needs to be a deterrent, of course. But the issue is that they are returning due to the lack of programs and that they're just in there for too long. So how big is the problem? Recidivism or a person's relapse into criminal behavior is a major problem according to the National Institute of Justice.
Year, you're not giving any years.
In 2015, within 5 years of a release, 76.6% of released prisoners were rearrested. So why do we have this problem? We mainly have this problem because during the 70s and 80s, there was a surge in crime rates, in homicides, and violent crimes. But it successfully did decrease the crime rate according to a Washington Post article in 2015. the incarceration rates decreased by 20%. Okay, according to Lewis University law professor Andrea Craig, in 2017, she said that tough on crime policies led to harsher sentences and a lack of interest in programs. So people wanted to be so tough on crime that they didn't care about these people, just lock them up for however long, a long amount of time, and don't offer them programs. And that is the problem here. So the solution is, first of all, we need to continue the current rate of incarceration, but second, we need to decrease the sentence times for nonviolent crimes, and third, focus on programs for those people. So the prison sentences are necessary to deter crime, but they shouldn't be as lengthy. According to the National Academies Press, published 2014, incarceration can reduce crime, but it may also deter or rehabilitate those who are punished from committing future crimes. However, according to a professor at the University of Wisconsin in 2014 and Carnegie Mellon University, little evidence has proven that criminals respond to harsher sentencing after a certain amount of time. But there's stronger evidence that proves that just a shorter amount of time in prison still has the same deterring effect. So we need to also offer more programs. According to James Gilligan in 2014 from New York University, the only rational purpose for a prison is to restrain those who are violent, while to help them change their behavior so that they can come back to the community. Will this solution work? Yes, because it has worked in other places. For example, in Michigan and New York, when they repealed mandatory minimum sentences, the crime rates and costs fell overall. So obviously there are many advantages, such as public safety, reintegrating these people into society, and educating these people and offering them programs that they may not have received if they were not in prison in the first place. So on balance, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, and therefore the United States does not lock up too many people. I have met the criteria of the quantity and quality of my evidence, and I've proven that maintaining the current incarceration rate would be more beneficial, which is why I should vote negative.
Thank you. I now stand open for cross-examination and points of clarification.
She was at 7 minutes.
7 minutes, great, okay. Let's go. Cross-exer. You should be standing up there next time. Who did I say was next? Paul? Oh, yeah. Can you borrow a jacket from somebody?
No, he went last. Andrew.
You went last time.
Oh.
Okay, good. In the power stance, feet wider than your shoulders, so you're like a tripod, so you're strong. Good. Stand a little closer together so I can get you in the camera frame. Very good. 3 minutes. Okay, begin.
Okay, so by stating that mandatory minimum sentences is unnecessary, and by saying that evidence shows that a shorter amount of time has the same effect on criminals, aren't you arguing for the affirmative stance?
No, I'm not arguing for the affirmative stance, because uniquely I'm saying that the same amount of people, if not more people, should go through the prison system. But if you decrease the amount of sentencing, we have more people being incarcerated and more people going through the system that should be in there. So I am arguing for the negative.
Okay, and then why should we keep the same rate of incarceration if, according to your brief, nonviolent criminal sentences are too long?
Well, okay, so according to my brief, my point was that people going through the criminal justice system, it actually does have a deterring effect. We have to have prison, because if we don't have that sentence, then people are not deterred. However, I still believe that these people should go through prison, so that's why they should still be incarcerated. But like those professors said at the university, they found that after a certain amount of time, like 20 years, the deterring effect, there's no difference.
2 minutes left.
Okay, and then if you think we're locking up the right amount of people, but this sentencing is just for the wrong amount of time. How do you suggest that we fund the programs that will help them when they're in prison?
I mean, obviously there's always going to be a cost and funding issue. However, over time with this system, the more people that are getting out of prison and not coming back, that will overall, like, the cost will be outweighed, and also the benefits outweigh the negatives when these people are not returning and go through the system, and overall public safety is improved.
1 minute left.
So you don't think that instead of locking them up to begin with and just sending them to separate programs, that won't be a more effective and more cost-effective way?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
So you don't think it's more cost-effective to send them to programs separately versus just locking them out for
No.
nonviolent criminals?
I don't think that at all, because then people wouldn't be deterred. There has to be the prison sentence, and while they're in prison, when they're in prison and they have to be there and these programs are available, people are more likely to go through the programs. And again, no one is going to be deterred by just like having to go through a program. The prison aspect of that is essential.
Okay. What is your name?
Marion?
Miriam. Okay. 243. Thank you so much, Miriam and Haley. Haley, stay up there just for a minute. I want to just say a couple of things. One, for everybody else, it's too late for Haley. Don't print your briefs on two sides of the paper, just one. Thank you. Your preponderance of evidence was excellent, and you used it and you met it. I like that very much. I wish that you had not introduced your plan earlier on and you held it back for when you got down to, so what is the solution? You introduced it early.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of, why are you doing that now? And I thought this was very clever on your part. The only other thing I would have emphasized more for this side of the position is you value public safety and the right of the public to be safe against predators and people that repeat crime. And there's a lot of good evidence that much of the crime is done by repeat offenders. So if you can identify them and keep them in, you can reduce the crime rate. But that's a careful thing that's done with broken windows and things like that. And my only other suggestion, which I finally had to just yell out to you, is you fully qualify your sources, but you had excellent research, and so I'm confident now, and I'm pleased that you know how to do a public policy question on prisons. The only other thing would just be we like to use mandated means as one thing that we do in the plan. And if you want, you could have answered the question of, are you going to get the money? We're not saying we'll get the money. We're just saying we should do this. And it's the same with if you're going to build you're going to say if they're overcrowded, some people have said we'll build more private prisons, but we shouldn't let unsafe predators out into the community, because my highest value is the safety of society.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you, Haley. Okay, and doing the cross-examination will be. Has everyone signed the roll thing? Yeah. I need somebody that'll do the cross-examination. Yeah. Okay.
The vendors?
For Mr. Bender, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Go over there and sit near Gil, okay? So you don't waste our time. Okay. Oh, Who, are you timing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Oh,
got
wow.
30 minutes.
I'm screwed. How much time have I used?
25 minutes. So we'll get through me first.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Okay, I hope so. I don't want to lose the whole thing. I have, here, bring it over to me so I see it. Yeah.
Turn on the noise too.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Let me see it. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, yeah. We have 24 minutes left. Okay. Very nice. Okay. And Jonathan Bender stands before us, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, saying to his audience as he looks around, I respect my audience and really mean it. Take a half step forward. It looks like you're afraid of your audience when you back up so much to the screen. And you look around the room and make sure all phones are away, all computers are closed, all eyeballs are upon you. And Jonathan is going to give us his take on the prison brief, and I can't, oh, you're going to do an affirmative. So Jonathan is going to tell us why we lock up too many people and what he's going to do about it.
Alright, so the topic is that the United States locks up too many prisoners, and I'll be arguing this case in affirmative. For the criteria-wise, too many will be the point at which the prison overcrowding requires more prisons to be built, and that our rate of incarceration does not match in any sense those of the other developed countries. So, in definitions, I'm just going to skip because So what's the problem? So the United States continually incarcerates more people than any other high-income country. In 2016, we incarcerated 506 more people per 100,000 than the next other developed country, Poland. The total amount of prisoners is estimated to be over 2 million in 2015, which is about 0.6% of our total population, which is quite a bit. Also, since 2000, we've maintained that rate of 2 million prisoners, even though our crime rate has substantially decreased. Violent crime dropped in half, and property crime also uniformly decreased to about half between 93 and 2015. The proportional change in the amount of prisoners during a large decrease in crime is a result of the increased stay in prison for offenders. The Brennan Center for Justice declared that amount of time an inmate spends in prison increased about 33% between 1993 and 2009, and about 21.5% increase for drug offenders. Federal prison stays have risen have almost doubled, more than doubled, from 1.5 to 3.1 years between 1988 and 2012. So, overcrowding is a big problem we face in our prisons due to this increased length of stay. So in 2014, overall, the whole United States, 103.1% of capacity was filled in our prisons. The cost of building 13 federal prisons in 2002, so 15 years ago, was over $1.6 billion.
Where is your evidence and facts coming from? You're supposed to cite it orally, sir.
So that is coming from a World Prison Brief from January 1st, or no, from the Pew Research Center.
In what year?
2017.
Thank you.
All right, and then this is from a 2015 report for the County of Santa Barbara. They're looking at expanding and building a new main jail. They only have about 18,000 bookings with an average stay of 17 days a year. And they're projecting that it would cost over $52 million a year to maintain that jail. So that's just unfeasible economically for us right now for small prisons. Also, the governor of Alabama, this is from a news article from Alabama from, I believe, 2016. He proposed a $1.5 billion prison construction plan this year. And it's because Alabama is the worst with over 175% capacity. So how big is the problem? 27 states had more prisoners than the prison capacity officially allowed in 2015. At the extreme end, Alabama had 186.3% capacity, and on the low end, Mexico had about 60% of capacity. What overcrowding does, according to sociologist Hans Wolff, is that the closer you get to 200% of capacity, the higher chance of self-harm acts amongst prisoners, specifically strangulation and hangings.
What year?
2016. So why do we have this problem? So politicians continually support legislation that contributes to public safety. Through this, they have a firm stance against crime, and this has made lengthened sentences common. So longer sentences for all degrees of crime are utilized to deter, prevent, and just get people off the streets. So this stance was also more recently in the 2015 campaign of President Trump used as a tough on crime stance when he addressed his predecessor about release of prisoners for nonviolent crimes. So the largest issue of these tough on crime policies is the mandatory minimum sentencing. It limits the discretion of the judge by requiring a minimum punishment for specific crimes. One example is 100 grams of heroin requires a 5-year minimum sentence under federal law. Many nonviolent drug offenders end up in jail between 5 and 10 years due to mandatory minimum sentences, even though they pose no immediate threat to public safety. Usually mandatory minimum sentencing is for nonviolent criminals with drug-related offenses. According to the United States Sentencing Commission in 2016, over a fifth of all convicted criminals were in jail due to mandatory minimum sentencing. This means that maybe a fifth of all prisoners have no threat to our society. The next part under the minimum sentencing law is the 3 strikes law, which means if you have 3 felonies, you'll go to jail for 25 years minimum to life. Over 500 prisoners are serving time on 3 strike laws, and they can be nonviolent as well, for example, forgery, so they might not be worth keeping off the streets.
Where was that evidence from?
That was Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and I believe that was 2016.
Get in the habit of giving your evidence credibility.
Because I need to ears more? Or?
Yeah, because your audience can't read your footnotes. I told you have to present your citations orally.
So like full?
Full citations orally, yes. Go ahead, keep going.
So a lack of quality education and vocational programs in prisons can also lead to recommitting to crimes and eventually the recycling of prisoners. The Sentencing Commission in 2016 published an article called Recidivism Amongst Federal Offenders, a Comprehensive Overview, which said that about 25% of all federal offenders end up reincarcerated within 29 months of release. Also, absurd laws exist and citizens are unaware of the resulting intentional crime with unnecessary prison sentences. So what's the solution? Repeal all mandatory minimum sentencing policies and place the power of sentencing back in the judge's hands. This will give some discretion to the judges in specific objective sentences. Also, we can institute programs that guarantee soon released prisoners with jobs for 6 months upon release so that they have stability. And also, Efficient Gov report in 2017 stated that an entrepreneurship program can always results in less recidivism. So, will the solution work? Through the repeal of mandatory minimum sentences, our prison population will decline, and also will the amount of funding required.
Tom.
Just to sum up, you're on balance.
Okay. So on balance, removing prisoners through mandatory minimum sentencing and decreasing overcrowding will benefit the safety of criminals. It will also decrease the funding necessary, and it will create more jobs by getting more people into our economy and working to pay taxes and positive contribution.
Okay, thank you. I now stand open for cross-examination and points of clarification.
I stand open for cross-examination and points of clarification.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very good. Okay. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Elbows and friends.
Thanks.
Nice color. I like that. Thank you. What are you doing?
Oh, I thought I was waiting on you to tell me to grow up.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Wait till you have the attention of your audience. Okay.
Okay, examination. Okay. All right. So, Mr. John Bender. So you mentioned that Santa Barbara is economically unfeasible to sustain the prison system over there. Did you say that?
I said with their projected budget of 52 million yearly expense on a new.
On your
person
explanation.
found
On your
out.
explanation. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So, how do you explain the debt ceiling that was increased for hurricane relief? Okay. How do you explain that? You know, you said that. Okay.
That debt ceiling increase for hurricane relief. That has nothing to do with the prison expense.
That's your opinion. All right. So, and you said that Alabama, is it also economically unfeasible to sustain the prison system over in Alabama? And do they have more violent criminals in Alabama?
I'm unsure as to if they have more violent criminals, but in the governor's proposed plan, it was $1.5 billion.
Is there any explanation? All right, thank you very much.
2 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So, you also said that an entrepreneurship plan would decrease recidivism. How did that do that? How'd you go about doing that?
According to a study, programs that increase job accessibility in terms of entrepreneurship, that is encouraging them to start businesses.
All right, thanks.
It reduces
Thank you very much.
recidivism. And that was
Okay,
according
no,
to
all right.
Fishing Gov in 2016. So those programs work.
Okay,
according
yeah,
to
thanks.
those
All right,
studies.
okay. Let me ask you a question. Another question. All right, thanks. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's. I'm asking you to please. Would you please, if you can, define non-violent drug offenders?
So a non-violent criminal in general could be any drug offender who has no violent crime. So a violent crime would be, say, an assault, a murder, a contact, anything like that. So if you're just dealing drugs or if you're in possession,
all right, thanks
you're
very much.
non-violent.
Thank you. All right. So doesn't more... Okay, that was good explanation.
So how
I
do those
appreciate it.
affect?
Okay, all right, thanks. Doesn't more prison time deter crime, whether it be violent or non-violent? So whether, I guess non-violent, okay? Me doing, like, drugs like heroin and crack cocaine. If I want to do that, wouldn't prison time deter that? Doesn't more prison time, wouldn't that deter that?
Studies have proven it doesn't, but also...
Oh, wait, which studies? Which studies?
2 minutes and 40 seconds left. You have 20 seconds left.
Okay, taking too long. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Fishing Gov in 2017.
Okay, yeah, fine. Okay. Other question?
Your time's up. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Stay up there for some feedback. You can have a seat. I want to just make some comments about the cross-examination. I'd recommend all of you read the article on the website. And this last cross-examination you just saw does not reflect any of the instruction given in that article. You want to not be rude. You want to allow people to answer the question. If you have yes or no questions that you can couch that way, that's one thing. But to just cut people off makes you less credible and seem to be rude. So let's watch out for that. You want to have a clear goal when you're cross-examining, and you want to get to the central thrust or important part of the case that the affirmative is arguing, and try to go after their thesis and see if you can probe their evidence. And we didn't really see that here. Jonathan, big picture thing. Thank you for just using a single side of your page. I guess you didn't hear me say that I wanted the citations fully cited orally because people can't read your footnotes. And so if you needed to write them in up there as you were orally giving them, you do so. You also needed to time yourself and be more selective so that you could get through everything. You had, you were top heavy. You spent a lot of time on how much and how big the problem is at the very top. And we needed to get more down to the inherency, which is your 3 strike laws and your mandatory minimums, your inherency, which is your best stuff, and then some solvency, some evidence from authorities that say mandatory minimums, and the other type of things that constrict the judge can be restricted or done away with and not lose the safety issue. On your plan, you needed to, you said repeal all mandatory minimums. I'm looking for that kind of specificity that you gave me, but also structure it as mandate and means, so we know what you're going to do, and then means how you're going to do it. Will the solution work? Here I didn't see a lot of evidence read. You had some in your brief, but you didn't get to it because of time. And that's terribly important because your audience and people that are thinking about adopting your policy are going to want to know, 1, will it work, and 2, are there advantages to doing it? So those are the things you want to stress. Other than that, nice job. You're a very pleasant speaker, and you handled yourself during cross-examination with great class. Thank you.
You're better than me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going down the road, but if you're burning to go, go. Just do it quickly. So I need it. Will you do the cross-check? So you're ready to jump up the second she's done. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. I need to stop this hard drive, right? Yeah. Yeah, I need to start the hard drive. Okay. Okay, over and out, ladies and gentlemen. To be continued on part 2.